You don't change your life by wishing for it. You change it by training for it. I know many of you are standing at the edge of a new year with a quiet prayer in your heart, but a hope, but a hunger, a whisper asking, can I really become who I'm meant to be? But I've asked myself that same question, BR in hotel rooms, on long flights, BR, on nights when the world felt loud and my confidence felt small. And I learned something simple but life-changing. BR transformation isn't magic, it's a habit. One habit that becomes a doorway, and that doorway becomes your becoming. So today, I want to give you 7 truths built around one life-shifting habit. BR, the habit of daily self-discipline. The habit of showing up when no one is watching. The habit that rewires your destiny from the inside out. Let's walk through these 7 steps. They're a journey, time, a story of rising. When you hear the word discipline, most people tense up a little. They picture rules, pressure, sacrifice, a life stripped of joy. But over the years, I learned something that shifted everything for me. Discipline is not punishment, it's devotion. It's the daily act of honoring the person you are becoming. And when you begin to see it that way, something softens inside you, something opens. Suddenly, discipline isn't this rigid, cold thing you're forcing onto yourself. It becomes an expression of love. Love for your dreams, love for your future, love for the life God quietly planted inside you, waiting for you to water it. I remember seasons of my life where I felt pulled in every direction, expectations everywhere, noise everywhere, pressure. You show up when it's just soil and hope. You trust the process even when nothing is blooming yet. That's devotion. Believing in what hasn't revealed itself, believing in the promise God placed in you, even when the evidence hasn't caught up. It's easy to romanticize a dream. It's easy to imagine the finish line. But discipline asks you a different question. Are you willing to train for the life you prayed for? Are you willing to face the part of yourself that gets tired, bored, distracted, impatient, and still show up anyway? Not because someone is watching, but because you refuse to betray the version of yourself you're trying to grow into. And when you practice discipline this way, something beautiful happens. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop shrinking your potential to match your comfort. You begin to realize that every small act, every page you read, every workout you finish, every goal you chip away at, every hour you reclaim, is you saying to your future, I'm coming, I'm preparing, I'm ready. There's a tenderness in discipline that people forget to talk about. It teaches you how to hold yourself accountable without hating yourself. It teaches you that you can be both gentle and firm, both patient and determined, both humble and hungry. It teaches you how to stay committed even when life feels unfair. And life will feel unfair sometimes. There will be seasons that stretch you, moments that break you open, days that test your spirit. But discipline is what steadies you. It anchors you. It keeps you moving when your emotions want to quit. It reminds you that you are capable of more than your doubt wants you to believe. One day, maybe sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize it wasn't the big moments that changed you. It was the small commitments repeated over and over again. It was the mornings when you didn't snooze, the nights when you chose growth instead of escape, the hours you invested when no one else even knew. That devotion becomes strength. It becomes clear. It becomes the quiet confidence that only comes from showing up. So start treating your daily habits as an act of faith, as a promise, as a devotion to the life that's waiting on the other side of your persistence. Because discipline isn't about restricting your life. It's about expanding it, step by step, choice by intentional choice, becoming by becoming. There is a moment every morning that most people rush past without noticing. A moment that looks so small, so ordinary that we underestimate its power. But I've learned that your morning is not just the beginning of your day. It is the steering wheel of your life. It is the quiet hour when you decide who is in control, your purpose or your distractions, your intention or your impulses, your faith or your fear. You don't need to change your entire life in one day. But you can change each direction of it. The moment you wake up. There were times in my life when my mornings felt frantic, like I was already behind before I even got out of bed. I'd reach for my phone, scroll through messages, absorb the noise of the world before I had even heard the sound of my own thoughts. And because my morning was chaotic, my entire day followed that energy, my thoughts scattered, my emotions reactive, my time slipping out of my hands. And it wasn't because I was doing too much. It was because I wasn't doing the right things first. When I finally learned to claim my mornings, everything shifted. My clarity, my confidence, my emotional grounding. I realized that the world will always have demands, and people will always need something from you, and life will always pull at you. But the morning can be your sanctuary. The morning is your reminder that before you answer to the world, you must answer to your purpose. Winning your morning doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require waking up at a dramatic hour or following some rigid routine. It simply means beginning with intention, beginning with a pause, beginning with something that nourishes your spirit instead of draining it. Pray even for 1 minute, move even for 5 minutes. Breathe, even if it's just a slow inhale that reminds you you're alive. Read a paragraph that lifts you. Sit in silence long enough to notice your own heartbeat and say, I'm here, I choose how I show up today. People underestimate these things because they look small, but small habits done early are powerful. They become the rhythm of your mind. They set the tone of your reactions. They strengthen your discipline like nothing else. Because the first choice of the day is the foundation that every other choice stands on. If the first thing you do each morning is give your attention to noise, your mind becomes chaotic. If the first thing you do is give your attention to fear, your day becomes heavy. But if the first thing you do is give your attention to purpose, your day becomes intentional. You start moving differently, you start thinking with clarity, you start listening to yourself, not your excuses, and you start acting like someone who knows where they're going. Your morning is where you remember your why. It's where you remind your heart, this is the life I'm building, this is the person I'm becoming. So many people feel lost, not because they lack ambition, but because they start their days already surrendered to the world. They wake up reacting instead of directing. But you were never meant to live your life on autopilot. You were meant to drive it. Some mornings will feel easy. Some will feel heavy. Some mornings you'll wake up inspired. Some mornings you'll wake up exhausted. But that's exactly why morning discipline matters, because it teaches you to show up for your purpose, not your mood. It helps you to begin the day with strength, even on the days you feel fragile. It teaches you that you don't need to feel powerful to choose power. And when you learn to steer your morning, something beautiful happens. Your day follows, your week shifts, your year transforms. You don't drift anymore, you navigate, you don't wait for motivation, you create direction, you don't hope for growth, you build it hour by hour, sunrise by sunrise. The morning is your quiet meeting with the future version of yourself, the version who is disciplined, grounded, fulfilled, faithful, clear. Each morning you ask, how can I honor you today? What choices will lead me closer to you? And then you act, even if it's small, even if it's simple, even if it's just one step. You don't need a perfect morning routine, you just need a purposeful one, something that reminds you that you are not a passenger in your own life. You are the driver, you hold the wheel, you decide the energy, the intention, the direction. And once you understand that, once you truly feel the weight and the gift of that, you start living each day not as a reaction but as a creation. Confidence is one of those words people throw around casually, as if it's something you can buy or borrow or inherit. But confidence, real confidence, the kind that steadies your voice and quiets your doubt and helps you walk into a room without shrinking. That kind of confidence is earned, and the way you earn it is through small, repeated victories. Not big achievements, not dramatic moments, not applause, but the simple, quiet victories you give yourself every single day. There was a time in my life when I thought confidence came from the outside, from validation, from success, from someone telling me, you're good enough. And every time the world went silent, my confidence disappeared with it. I felt like I had to constantly prove myself just to feel worthy. But life has a way of teaching you what truly matters. And eventually, I learned that the most powerful form of confidence is built in solitude, when no one is watching, when you do what you said you would do, even when it would be easier not to. Think about how you feel when you break a promise to yourself. It could be something small, skipping the workout you planned, pushing aside a task you know you need to do, saying, "I'll start tomorrow for the 10th time." Those moments seem harmless in the moment, but they quietly chip away at your self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you don't trust yourself to show up, confidence becomes unstable. It becomes conditional. It becomes something you perform rather than something you embody. But the opposite is also true. When you keep your promises, even tiny ones, something inside you strengthens. You stand taller, you speak clearer, you walk with a sense of direction. Because you've proved to yourself, not through words but through action, that you are someone you can rely on. You are someone who follows through. You are someone who is consistent, even in private. Imagine doing one small thing every day that moves you toward your goals. Reading one page, walking for 10 minutes, drinking water instead of reaching for comfort, cleaning the space around you so your mind can breathe. These are not grand gestures, they won't make headlines, but small wins have compound power. They build momentum. They whisper to your mind, you are capable. And when your mind begins to believe that, everything in your life begins to shift. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to shout or prove or demand attention. Confidence is quiet strength, the kind you feel in your bones, the kind that comes from discipline, the kind that grows each time you push past resistance and choose growth over comfort, the kind that comes from stacking small wins until they form a mountain. There were seasons where I felt lost, unsure, overwhelmed by expectations, my own and everyone else's. I wasn't always confident. But what changed me wasn't a big breakthrough. It wasn't a moment of enlightenment. It was the tiny habits I committed to daily, waking up a little earlier, practicing gratitude even on heavy days, reading something that fed my spirit, taking steps, not leaps. And every time I did, I felt my confidence quietly rebuilding itself. You don't need to change your entire life to feel confident. You just need one win. One small promise kept. One little choice that proves to yourself, I'm stronger than I thought. And then another, and another. Before you know it, you're not the same person anymore. You're someone who leads themselves. Someone who doesn't crumble at the first sign of struggle. Someone who walks with conviction because that conviction was earned. Confidence built this way cannot be taken from you. It doesn't disappear when someone criticizes you. It doesn't vanish when life gets hard. It doesn't depend on approval or applause. It is rooted in something deeper, the relationship you have with yourself. And that relationship grows stronger with every small win you commit to. So don't wait for a big moment to change the way you see yourself. Start with something tiny, something almost laughably easy. Do it today. Do it again tomorrow. Stack your small victories like bricks. Build your inner foundation. Build your self-trust. Build the quiet power that reminds you every morning, I can rely on myself. I am capable. I am becoming. Because when you trust yourself, confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes who you are. Your mind is the place you live long before you ever walk into the world. It's the space where every thought, every fear, every dream, every memory sits quietly shaping you. And the more I've lived, I've realized that the mindset you wake up with becomes the home you carry through your day. Some people live in a home built on doubt. Some live in a home built on comparison. Some live in a home built on fear that whispers, what if you're not enough? And the tragedy is that they don't even realize they're allowed to renovate it. There were days in my life when my mind felt like a storm. Thoughts moving too fast, emotions tangled together, worry echoing through every corner. And when your mind is chaotic, your world becomes chaotic, even if nothing around you has actually changed. That's the power of mindset. It shapes your reality before reality even arrives. What I learned slowly, painfully, beautifully is this. You cannot build a peaceful life inside an unkind mind. It takes discipline to protect your mindset, discipline to interrupt the spiral, discipline to challenge the voice that keeps telling you a story about your limitations. But it's a discipline worth practicing, because when you change your inner world, your outer world begins to shift naturally. Most people don't realize how much power they give away through their thoughts. You think one negative idea is harmless, but it becomes a seed. And if you water that seed with worry, with fear, with repetition, it grows roots. It becomes the lens through which you see everything. Suddenly you stop trying, you hesitate, you shrink yourself to fit a story that was never meant to be yours, all because of a thought you didn't question. But imagine doing the opposite. Imagine noticing a fearful thought and saying, "No, this one doesn't get to stay." Imagine replacing it with gratitude, even when it feels forced. Imagine speaking to yourself the way you speak to someone you love, gently, honestly, encouragingly. Imagine choosing to believe in possibilities instead of obstacles, not because life is easy, but because faith makes you stronger than your fear. But your mindset is not something you inherit permanently. It's something you can train, something you can elevate, something you can heal. And healing your mindset doesn't mean you never feel doubt again. It means doubt doesn't get the final word. It means you don't surrender your peace to every passing thought. It means you know how to anchor yourself even in the middle of uncertainty. I've learned that if you don't intentionally choose your thoughts, your fears will choose them for you. And fear is a terrible architect. It builds walls, not foundations. It builds ceilings, not sky. It builds limitations that feel like truths. But discipline, real inner discipline, allows you to rebuild, to open windows where fear closed doors, to let light in where darkness tried to settle, to rearrange the furniture of your thoughts until your mind becomes a place that supports your growth, not sabotages it. The beautiful thing about renovating your mindset is that you don't need perfection to start. You only need awareness. Notice your patterns. Notice what drains you. Notice what strengthens you. Notice the thoughts that make your chest tighten, the ones that make you shrink, the ones that keep you from showing up. Because once you notice them, you can interrupt them, you can question them, you can replace them. And slowly, your mind becomes a home with more space, more peace, more clarity, more courage. You start seeing yourself differently. You start choosing differently. You start attracting opportunities you once felt unworthy of. Because when your inner world expands, your outer world has no choice but to follow. A strong mindset isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about believing you are capable of facing things even when they aren't. It's about grounding yourself in truth when your emotions feel loud. It's about choosing to build your life from a place of faith, not fear. Over time, this becomes a habit, one of the strongest habits you will ever form, and one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up and feel something shift. You'll notice that your mind is no longer your enemy, it's your partner. It's a place that encourages you, protects you, and guides you. And you'll understand deeply that the most important home you will ever build is the one inside your own head. We all love the idea of motivation, that spark, that rush, that moment when everything feels possible and you say to yourself, "Tomorrow I'm going to change my life." But motivation is a guest. Beautiful when it arrives, unreliable when you depend on it. It comes when it wants, stays as long as it likes, and disappears without warning. And if you build your life around motivation, you end up living in cycles, fired up one moment, defeated the next. But consistency is different. Consistency is a commitment, a choice, a steady heartbeat that keeps going long after the excitement fades. There were seasons in my life when I waited for motivation to save me. I waited to feel ready, to feel inspired, to feel strong enough to take the next step. But life isn't generous with those moments. You don't always wake up energized. You don't always feel powerful. Some mornings you feel heavy. Some evenings you feel exhausted. Some days you look at your goals and think, "Not today." And that's when consistency becomes your lifeline. Because consistency doesn't ask you how you feel. It asks you who you want to become. Most people believe success belongs to the most talented, the most gifted, the ones who have some secret advantage. But the truth is far simpler. Success belongs to the consistent, to the ones who keep showing up even when the feeling disappears, to the ones who learn to be disciplined even in the moments when their passion flickers, to the ones who choose progress over perfecti, on effort over excuses. Babia. Because here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. The days you don't feel like showing up are the days that shape you the most. Anyone can act when they're inspired. Anyone can work when the energy is high. But the people who transform their lives are the ones who work in the in-between spaces. The ordinary mornings, the quiet nights, the long stretches when nothing seems to be changing. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it feels invisible, but consistency keeps you moving toward it. There were moments in my own journey when it felt like nothing was happening. I would show up day after day, pushing, learning, practicing, disciplining myself, and still feel like I was stuck in the same place. And that's when doubt tries to creep in. That's when your mind whispers, why are you even doing this? But that whisper, that frustration, that tension, you need it. It means you're stretching. It means you're resisting your old patterns. It means you're building something inside yourself that will outlast every struggle. Consistency is the slow, steady work of building trust with yourself. When you do something repeatedly, even when you don't want to, you begin to learn something powerful. You can depend on yourself. And that self-dependence becomes momentum. Momentum becomes growth. Growth becomes transformation. People often misunderstand consistency. They think it means doing something perfectly every day. But consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means return. Return to the work. Return to the practice, return to the path even after you've wandered off. Consistency forgives you. It welcomes you back. It says, you missed yesterday, that's fine. Come again today. And that kindness toward yourself, toward the journey, is what keeps you going. Some days consistency will look strong. Some days it will look fragile. Some days it will look like a full hour of work. Some days it will look like 10 minutes of effort. But all that matters is that you showed up, because even the smallest step forward keeps the path warm beneath your feet. Even the smallest action reminds your mind, we're still in this, we're not giving up. For over time, you begin to realize something incredible. Motivation might start a journey, but consistency is what finishes it. Motivation sparks the flame, but consistency keeps it burning through the storms. Consistency is what builds habits. Habits build discipline, and discipline builds the life you were meant to live. And one day you look back and see the truth. It wasn't the big days that changed you. It was the quiet ones, the ordinary ones. The days you showed up even without the spark. The days you whispered, I'll try again, when no one was there to witness it. Those days carved your strength. Those days built your character. Those days created the version of why. Oh, you who can handle anything.br, because consistency beats motivation every single time. And once you master that, there is nothing, truly nothing, you cannot become. There's a quiet truth we don't talk about enough. Rest is not weakness. Rest is not quitting. Rest is not stepping away from your dreams. Rest is a form of discipline. It is the art of pausing before you break. It is the courage to say, I need a moment, instead of forcing yourself into a version of strength that eventually collapses. We live in a world that glorifies exhaustion, that praises people for running on empty, that treats burnout like a badge of honor. But you cannot pour from a dry spirit. You cannot shine from a tired mind. You cannot build your future with a body that is begging you to slow down. There have been times in my life when I pushed myself so hard that I forgot what it felt like to breathe without feeling guilt. I felt guilty for resting, guilty for pausing, guilty for taking time for myself. And that guilt made me feel like I had to constantly perform, constantly produce, constantly prove something. But you learn eventually that constant motion is not the same as progress. You can run fast in the wrong direction. You can chase so many things that you lose your alignment. You can try so hard to stay strong that you forget strength needs recovery too. .dr. Rest isn't laziness. Rest is strategy. It is the wisdom to step back so you can return with clarity. It is the maturity to protect your energy the same way you protect your dreams. Because your purpose isn't meant to drain you, it's meant to elevate you. And elevation requires fuel. It requires presence. It requires renewal. Some people think discipline only looks like hard work, the grind, the hustle, the movement. But discipline is also learning when to stop, when to breathe, when to allow your body to whisper truths your ambition tries to ignore. When you're exhausted, everything feels heavier, problems feel larger, doubts feel louder, and that's not because life suddenly changed, it's because fatigue distorts your perspective. When you're rested, the same challenges feel manageable, the same obstacles feel smaller, the same path feels clearer. That's why rest is part of discipline. It restores the lens through which you see your life. There is a rest that is physical, the sleep your body needs, the stillness that relaxes your muscles. But there is also a rest that is emotional. And that kind of rest comes from silence, reflection, prayer, gratitude, conversation with someone who sees you, moments where you allow your heart to soften. We often think burnout is only physical, but emotional burnout is even more dangerous because it builds slowly. You can function on the outside while breaking quietly on the inside. We are. And that's why you must learn to listen to yourself. Your body speaks. Your mind speaks, your spirit speaks. If you ignore their quiet requests for rest, they will eventually scream. Fatigue becomes anxiety, pressure becomes overwhelm, detachment becomes numbness. And by the time you reach that point, even small tasks feel impossible. Rest prevents that. Rest is an early intervention. It's your soul asking for a moment to reset. There is nothing weak about pausing. There is nothing shameful about taking time to recalibrate. Even nature rests. Waves pull back before they rise again. Trees shed their leaves so they can bloom in the spring. The sun sets every night, not because it has failed, but because rising requires a cycle. You are no different. You are part of creation, not separate from it. Your greatness grows in seasons. Your strength expands in phases. Your spirit needs moments of quiet to gather itself. Sometimes we think pushing harder is the answer, but sometimes the answer is stepping back just long enough to remember who you are, to reconnect with your why, to breathe deeply enough for your shoulders to drop, to feel your humanity without judgment. Rest doesn't take you away from your purpose, it reconnects you to it. It reminds you that you are not a machine. You are a soul living inside a body, navigating a world that constantly asks for more. And here's the most beautiful part. When you honor rest, you return stronger. Your decisions become sharper, your creativity wakes up, your resilience thickens, your steps become more intentional. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop rushing and start aligning. You stop surviving and start living. Dr. So let yourself rest when you need to, not as an escape, but as an act of strength, not because you're giving up, but because you're preparing to rise again. Protect your peace, guard your energy, honor your limits, and remember this, even the strongest foundations stay strong because they learned when not to carry weight. There comes a moment in your journey when you realize that everything you've built, the discipline, the mindset, the habits, the healing, the growth, was never meant to stay only with you. There's a deeper reason you're becoming stronger, a deeper reason you're learning discipline, a deeper reason you're transforming your life. And that reason is service. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of your growth is not just to elevate yourself, it is to lift the people who walk beside you, behind you, and after you. When I look back at my own path, every season of hardship, every stretch of discipline, every moment of courage wasn't just preparing me for success, it was preparing me to contribute, to give, to guide, to shine in a way that lights the way for someone else. You see, we often chase achievement because we think that's where meaning lives. But meaning lives in impact. In knowing that your life, your strength, your lessons, your victories added something good to the world. We are. And that's the beautiful thing about service. It doesn't always look big. It doesn't always look like changing the world. Sometimes it looks like changing one moment for someone. Sometimes it's listening deeply when you're tired. Sometimes it's encouraging someone who's lost faith in themselves. Sometimes it's being the steady voice for a person who's drowning in noise. Service is built into small acts of love, into presence, into kindness, into patience, into choosing to use the best parts of yourself to make life a little lighter for another soul. We all want to be seen, recognized, appreciated. It's human. But the more you grow, the more you understand that real fulfillment doesn't come from attention. It comes from intention. It comes from knowing that your existence made someone else breathe easier, even for a moment, that your courage helped them find theirs, that your journey inspired them to rise. And here's what's magical. When your discipline is rooted in service, your journey becomes so much richer. When you work hard not just to succeed but to be someone others can depend on, your effort becomes more meaningful. When you build strength not just for yourself but to be a pillar for someone who is struggling, your resilience deepens. When you grow not just to shine but to inspire, your light expands. Br. You stop chasing validation and start embodying purpose. You stop living only for your goals and start living for your calling. You stop measuring success by what you achieve and start measuring it by what you give. That shift changes everything. There's a kind of strength that comes from within, discipline, resilience, grit. But there is a deeper strength that comes from love. When your why is rooted in service, you tap into a power much larger than yourself. You stop walking alone. You feel guided. You feel supported. You feel connected to something greater, something divine. And life has a beautiful way of rewarding people who give from a genuine heart, not because of karma or luck, but because serving others shapes you into someone capable of receiving more. When you give compassion, you deepen your empathy. When you give encouragement, you grow your confidence. When you give love, you expand your capacity to love. When you lift others, you rise too. There is a kind of fulfillment that achievement can never give you. The fulfillment of knowing your life created ripples. That long after you leave a room, the kindness you offered continues moving. That long after you've lived your story, someone else's story will still carry your influence. And maybe that's what this whole journey is about. Not just becoming better, stronger, wiser, but becoming someone whose life serves a purpose bigger than themselves. Someone who walks through the world leaving traces of hope. Someone who makes discipline meaningful, not mechanica. Someone who becomes a vessel for light in a world that often feels too dark. Br. So grow, but not only for yourself. Rise, but not only for your dreams. Succeed, but not only for your glory. Let your life be a blessing. Let your discipline shape you into someone others can lean on. Let your journey become a map for someone who has lost their way. Because when your purpose includes service, your success becomes divine. It becomes guided. It becomes rooted in something eternal. And in the end, that is the kind of life that truly matters. A life that lifts, that loves, that leaves something good behind. Before you step back into your life, I want you to carry this truth with you, but you are not walking through this world alone. Every step you take toward growth is guided. Every act of discipline is witnessed. Every quiet prayer you whisper is heard. And every part of your journey, the highs, the heartbreaks, the breakthroughs, the becoming, is shaping you for a purpose bigger than you can see right now. Br. So don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Move with faith, move with intention, move with the quiet confidence that what is meant for you will always rise to meet you. And remember this, your life doesn't change when the year changes. It changes when you choose to rise, even a little. It changes when you decide that the future God has for you is worth fighting for. It changes the moment you believe that you were created with meaning, with strength, with light. Go into this next chapter with courage. Go with discipline. Go with a heart ready to serve, and trust that every step you take in faith will lead you exactly where you're meant to be, because your story isn't waiting for a miracle. Br. Your story becomes the miracle the moment you choose to begin.